Colleen Stan was born on December 31, 1956, in Eugene, Oregon. The youngest of 5 siblings. She grew up in a typical middle-class family. Described as shy and introverted, Colleen was a kind-hearted, religious young woman with a strong sense of duty to help others. At the age of 20, she was living a normal life, working odd jobs and enjoying the freedom of youth in the 1970s, a time when hitchhiking was a common way to travel. Little did she know her trusting nature would lead her into the hands of a monster. On May 19, 1977, 20-year-old Colleen Stan was hitchhiking from Eugene, Oregon, to Westwood, California, to attend a friend's birthday party. An experienced hitchhiker, Colleen was cautious and had already turned down 2 rides that didn't feel right. But when a blue van pulled over near Red Bluff, California, she saw a young couple with a baby inside. The presence of a child made her feel safe. She couldn't have been more wrong. Within moments of entering the van, Cameron Hooker, the driver, veered off the road into a remote area. At knife point, he forced a heavy, handmade wooden headbox over Colleen's head, blocking out light and sound. She was gagged, blindfolded, and handcuffed. Her journey to a birthday party now a descent into a living nightmare. The kidnappers were Cameron Hooker, a 23-year-old lumber mill worker, and his 19-year-old wife, Janice Hooker. Married in 1975, the couple had a young daughter, whose presence in the van had disarmed Colleen. Cameron was a man with dark, sadistic fantasies, particularly around bondage and control. Janice, who had been subjected to Cameron's abuse since their relationship began, was complicit in his twisted plans. The couple had been actively searching for a hitchhiker to enslave, and Colleen became their target. Cameron's goal was to create a slave to fulfill his depraved desires, while Janice, fearing her husband's violence, went along with the plan. Cameron and Janice Hooker used a blue van to pick up Colleen. The seemingly ordinary vehicle, with their baby in the back seat, was a trap disguised as safety. It was in this van that Colleen's freedom was stolen, as Cameron drove her to their home in Red Bluff, California, where her 7-year ordeal would begin. When Colleen didn't arrive at her friend's birthday party, her family grew concerned. They had no idea where she was or what had happened. Over the years, her lack of communication led them to believe she might have joined a cult, especially after a strange visit in 1981. During this visit, Colleen was allowed to see her family for 24 hours, accompanied by Cameron, who posed as her boyfriend. Fearful of a fictional organization called The Company, which Cameron claimed would harm her and her family if she spoke out, Colleen remained silent about her captivity. Her family, noticing her homemade clothes and withdrawn demeanor, didn't press her, fearing she'd cut contact entirely. They had no way of knowing the horrific truth. Colleen Stan was held captive for over 7 years, from May 1977 to August 1984. For much of this time, she was locked in a coffin-like wooden box under Cameron and Janice's waterbed, confined for up to 23 hours a day. The box was barely larger than her body, with only a small air hole and a speaker for communication. She was let out briefly at night for food, chores, or abuse. Cameron brainwashed her into believing she was being watched by The Company, a powerful group that would torture her and her family if she tried to escape. Forced to sign a slave contract in January 1978, Colleen was renamed Kay, required to call Cameron master, and forbidden from speaking without permission. Her life was reduced to fear, compliance, and survival. Cameron Hooker subjected Colleen to unimaginable physical and psychological torture. She was whipped, electrocuted, burned with a cattle prod, and stretched on a homemade rack. He hung her from the basement ceiling by her wrists, beat her, and subjected her to ritualistic sexual assaults, including oral rape and sodomy. Cameron also deprived her of food, kept her naked, and forced her to endure psychological manipulation, convincing her that escape was impossible. A chilling detail was a photo of another woman, believed to be Marie Elizabeth Spanhake, A previous victim allegedly murdered by Cameron, placed in the box as a warning. These acts were designed to break Colleen's spirit, but her resilience kept her alive. For the first few years of her captivity, Colleen spent up to 23 hours a day in the wooden box under the hooker's waterbed. The box was so small she could barely move, and the lack of light and air made it a living tomb. Over time, as she complied with Cameron's demands to avoid punishment, she was allowed out more often to perform chores, care for the couple's children, or even work as a maid at a nearby hotel. Yet, the fear of the company kept her from fleeing, even when opportunities arose. Colleen's escape came in August 1984, thanks to an unlikely ally, Janice Hooker. Over the years, Janice had been both a participant in and a victim of Cameron's abuse. When Cameron expressed a desire to take Colleen as a second wife and possibly kidnap more women, Janice's fear for her own life and her children's safety grew. After confiding in her pastor, Janice told Colleen the truth. The company was a lie. With this revelation, Colleen found the courage to leave. She walked to a bus station, called Cameron to tell him she was leaving, and boarded a bus home, wired money by her family. Janice initially asked Colleen not to go to the police, hoping Cameron could reform, but Colleen was finally free. 3 months after Colleen's escape, in November 1984, Janice realized Cameron could not change. She went to the Red Bluff police and reported his crimes, including the kidnapping, torture, and alleged murder of Marie Elizabeth Spanhake in 1976, though no charges were filed for Spanhake's case due to lack of evidence. Janice's testimony, combined with Colleen's account and physical evidence like the head box and slave contract, led to Cameron's arrest. The police were shocked by the case's brutality, with the FBI later describing it as unparalleled in history. Cameron Hooker's trial began in 1985 and drew massive media attention. Charged with kidnapping, rape, sodomy, and other crimes, Cameron claimed the acts were consensual, pointing to Colleen's failure to escape as evidence. However, Colleen and Janice's testimonies, supported by forensic psychologist Chris Hatcher, revealed the extent of Cameron's psychological control. Janice was granted immunity for testifying against her husband. On October 31, 1985, Cameron was convicted and sentenced to 104 years in prison on November 22. Judge Clarence Knight called him the most dangerous psychopath he'd ever encountered. Cameron remains in prison, with his next parole hearing scheduled for 2030, after being classified as a sexually violent predator. Colleen Stan returned to a life forever changed. She suffered from PTSD and chronic pain from her confinement but showed incredible strength. She earned an accounting degree, had a daughter, and joined organizations to help abused women. Her story, told in books like Perfect Victim and the film Girl in the Box, has inspired law enforcement training on coercive control and survivor resilience. Colleen's courage reminds us of the human spirit's ability to endure even the darkest horrors. Colleen Stan's story is a testament to survival and resilience. If you or someone you know is a victim of abuse, help is available. Visit insert relevant organization, e.g. www.rain.org, http://www.rain.org, or call a local helpline to find support. Share Colleen's story to raise awareness about the dangers of coercive control and human trafficking. Subscribe to our channel for more true crime stories, and let's work together to support survivors and prevent such horrors. Thank you for watching. Colleen Stan's story is one of survival against all odds. Her courage continues to inspire us all.